Okay, so welcome to our Saturday morning Purium business nutrition tips, food, about our amazing superfoods. You know, we are a food company and every human being on this planet eats every day. And the ones that get the nutrients that delivered to your systems in your body, they're probably the healthiest ones on the planet. The ones who figure out a food source that's been sourced properly without the chemicals and the pesticides and all the poisons that are in 95% of the food that we have on this planet. But Purium has been committed to foods that will nourish and feed your body. And that's really what we're about. We don't make claims. We don't make claims about our foods heal anything. Your body gets fed, and this little thing called regeneration starts working in your body. And the more you stay consistent with regenerative nutrients, like we have in Purium, the less you're going to be craving the chemicals, the fast foods, the foods that have no nutrition. So again, Purium, we make no claims about healing anything except letting your body do the work to heal itself when you give it proper nutrition. And so on that note, we've had Lucy and I have had a friend that we've been working with for the last couple years, and her name is Joyce Gerber, and Joyce is a colon hydrotherapist for over 30 years. So she has practical experience of what people are doing to themselves on a pretty regular basis, because that's what her business has been about for years. And she has a multiple range of healing models that she works with. She's a nutritionist, and among many other titles that she'll share with you. So we've been working with Joyce for 2 years, and her knowledge is off the charts. And so it's great to have you here with us today, Joyce Gerber. And please, would you share with this amazing team of Purium superfood eaters a little bit about yourself and share with them a little of that amazing wisdom that you possess?
Thanks a lot, Michael. It's been a pleasure working with you and Lucy. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I've been in private practice actually since 1982. It's been 38 years. And in 1982, I got a massage therapy license. In 1984, I was certified in colon hydrotherapy, and then I got certified in nutritional counseling. So I've basically been in private practice all these years. And when I discovered Purium, it's such a funny story. I was shopping in Co-Opportunity in Santa Monica, this wonderful co-op, and somebody I knew, I ran into him, and he said, you know what, there's this wonderful company I'm working with. They have this 10-day cleansing program. I'm going to treat you to it. And he just sent it to me. And, you know, I've been in practice for years. Over the years, I worked with a lot of professional lines. You know, there's a lot of companies that create products that are good products, and they're just offered to health professionals. So the health professional gets the training, and then they share that information when they're sharing certain products with their patients. And over the years, different network marketing companies came across my path. And I was always drawn to network marketing, but it was a whole different thing than being in private practice and focusing on health. So I never really did much with it. I was in a company before this person gifted me the pack, and I wasn't totally comfortable with it. So I did the 10-day transformation, and I was really impressed with what I was reading and what was on the labels. And then I found out that there was going to be an event at the home office. This was 6 years ago. I've actually been in Purium for 6 years. And I went to the event, and when I found out that Dave Sandoval studied and was passionate about some of the same people I've studied with, like Dr. Bernard Jensen and Ann Whitmore, I was so thrilled that he had that kind of background, because those two teachers, I also just revered them and what they did. I mean, Ann Whitmore was thrown from a horse when she was 18, developed gangrene. They wanted to amputate her legs, and her grandmother was an herbalist. She was very familiar with working with the plants and the green foods, and she fed that to Anne, and Anne got well. And then she, just lived a typical American life. Is everything okay? Am I fading out here?
No. Sometimes when a new person comes on, just keep going. Just keep moving, Joyce. No problem.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was my reception or.
No, I'll let you know.
Okay. And so then in her 50s, she was in Boston living eating a traditional diet, developed cancer. And once again, she remembered what her grandmother did with her, and she went on all living foods and was experimenting with the different kinds of green foods and grasses, and found that wheatgrass worked really well. So she's kind of the grandmother of living foods and wheatgrass, and I think that's one of the reasons Dave Sandoval talks about her so much. So I got to apprentice with her for a month in 1990 at this health center she opened up in Puerto Rico. And it was incredible. And then there was Bernard Jensen, who was given up to die at the age of 18 of a severe lung condition, discovered colon cleansing and nutrition, got well, and lived to the ripe age of 92. So these were among the teachers I studied with. So, my first introduction to health was in the 70s, before I actually started to study. That's also a very funny story. I stuck my thumb out. I was living in Miami Beach. I'm from New York, but that was my big move away from home. So I moved to Miami Beach, and I used to hitchhike to get around. And one day, this guy named Johnny picked me up. And Johnny was passionate about fasting and juices and living foods. He brought me to my first natural food store and restaurant. And it was such a revelation, because up until then, I was a little carnivore. I grew up with canned vegetables. And here I am, and I'm loving these foods, and I'm reading everything I can get my hands on. So really, that's when my whole initiation to the connection between food and health, and using food as medicine, and the whole concept of detoxification. So really, my whole life and my whole practice has been the recognition that there are two main causes of disease: toxicity and deficiency. And if you eliminate the nutritional deficiencies and you eliminate the poisons from the body heals. We have a blueprint for perfect health inside us. And so even now, what's happening with coronavirus, I mean, I have a very hard time going along with the mainstream narrative, because traditional medicine is always focused on the pathogen, the germ, the virus, the bacteria, the cancer cell. And we have a mentality of waging war with the pathogen. We have to remember that any pathogen, like a virus, is a parasite. So it has to have a host to feed off of. So really, rather than doing battle, waging war on cancer cells, waging war on viruses and bacteria and germs, if our focus is on focusing on the host, which is us, and our biological terrain, the terrain inside us, just like when a farmer is planting a seed, he or she is focused on the terrain of the ground. You want to make sure you get the weeds out. You want to make sure the stones are picked up, that there's enough sunlight, that there's enough minerals, that there's enough water. And so in our own body, we need enough antioxidants and minerals and enzymes and chlorophyll and phytonutrients, the right kinds of clean protein, which won't form an ammonia kind of residue after digestion. Our proteins are so clean. And I guess that's why I'll tell you the truth. I need a lot more coaching with the network marketing and the making money from the side of things. And I'm very impressed with all of you, for a lot of you have done that. And yes, I acknowledge the knowledge I've learned over the years about health, and I'm thrilled that I have that. And yet at this point, especially with coronavirus, but even before that, I've been aware that my way of sharing information has always been one-on-one. So it's very limited in terms of how many people I can reach. And, you know, there's having to be in a brick and mortar location and having to show up and, you know, trading my time for dollars. And I'm recognizing the beauty of having this be a platform to share this kind of information with people, because it really can transform lives. So I'm so happy to be a part of this. And, you know, if anybody, I actually, Michael, I've been learning how to work Zoom over these last few months. So I'm looking into the camera here and speaking from this audio, but I'm looking at my computer here and I'm seeing chat. So if anybody has questions that they want to ask or anything, or if there's anything I've said that's confusing, you know, I'm happy to answer. But basically, so far, that's my story. That's my training. So Michael, if there's anything in particular you want me to talk about or you want to ask me.
Joyce, I would like to know a little bit about, you know, you seem to be very focused on gut health. And I hear you chat a lot, and you do a lot of like radio shows and shows on the web with different people that invite you to speak. So could you share a little bit about gut health and how maybe the biomedic and how maybe the core 4 as a system works so well, and why you happen to think that's a great little pack for people to consume?
Sure. And it's interesting because when I got certified in colon hydrotherapy in 1984, I already knew that that was a really beneficial thing. And for those of you who don't know, so I'm going to give you a quick anatomy lesson. You chew, you swallow, it goes down the esophagus, then you've got the stomach in the upper left quadrant of where the abdominal area is. Then you've got 30 feet of small intestine, and that's where a lot of digestion and absorption take place. And then after the 30 feet of small intestine, on the right-hand side of the body, it connects, the small intestine ends, there's the ileocecal valve, and then the colon, which is also known as the large intestine, goes up the right side of the body from like the lower part, kind of near the pelvic area. It goes up almost to the waist, and then it goes, so that's the ascending colon. It bends at the liver, so it's called the hepatic flexure. It goes across as the transverse colon, and that's somewhere between the waist and the navel. Then it bends again at the spleen, and then so that's the splenic flexure. Then it goes down as the descending colon. It curves again at the sigmoid colon, and then you have the rectum and the anus. So ideally, the colon, the whole gastrointestinal tract is a hollow tube, and if it's functioning right, there's something called peristalsis. It's a contractive action, and that's how it moves the food along. That's how it moves the waste out. And peristalsis, we need enough energy, which will be gotten from nutrition from the cells. So if we're not getting the right nourishment, the cells won't have the energy for that peristalsis. If you've got a lot of old waste built up on the walls of the colon, it interferes with the ability for that peristalsis to happen. It interferes with the ability of nutrients to be absorbed through the mucous membrane into the bloodstream. The biomedic, because the glyphosate, when it goes into us, it destroys, there are little fingers that are called villi all along the walls of the small intestine. And they are very responsible for absorption of nutrients. So when the glyphosate gets inside us, it deteriorates the villi. It interferes with mineral absorption, and we need minerals for every function, just like we need enzymes for every function. So the body is without the minerals it needs. The villi are impaired, so they're not absorbing. The glyphosate also makes these little holes in the mucous membranes of the intestine. So little particles of undigested or partially digested food leak through the membranes, the walls of the intestine into the bloodstream. And then our body, our immune system, recognizes it as a foreign invader and goes into an allergic reaction. So that's also where allergies and also autoimmune diseases happen. You know, the glyphosate is a big contributing factor of that. So, you know, having the, and then of course it destroys the good bacteria. And I've listened to Dave Sandoval talk about this a lot, and it makes so much sense. Normally, the four main ingredients in Biomedic, one is fulvic acid. And normally fulvic acid is used to push a nutrient deeper into the cell. But in the Biomedic, it's used to pull the glyphosate out. So I remember Dave once saying it almost acts, the fulvic acid acts like an escort. It escorts the glyphosate out of the body. And then we have something in there called humic ore, which is a really rich natural mineral source that will reestablish the minerals we need that have been blocked from the glyphosate. The Biomedic will also heal and repair the walls of the intestine. So when you have that kind of leakage, it's called leaky gut. So by healing and repairing, which is the fractionated wheat germ oil, helps to heal and repair the membranes of the intestine. And then the lactobacillus spores. Now normally, you know, just good bacteria, the lactobacillus is the good bacteria that replenishes the good bacteria that antibiotics often do destroy. But rather than just lactobacillus, he's put in spores. So, you know, if you've ever seen dandelions, those little feathery, fluffy dandelions, and when we were kids, we'd blow on it and those little feathers would go all over. Well, when the spores go into the gut, they explode. So we're just getting such a proliferation of good bacteria. So I feel like the Biomedic is such a great part of getting healthy and staying healthy, because when I went to colon hydrotherapy school, and even before that, you know, I always heard the expression, it's expressed a couple of different ways. They say death begins in the colon. They say life begins in the colon. They say disease begins in the colon. So it's a wonderful product to be using in a therapeutic way where you're doing 2 capsules twice a day. And then once normally I keep people on 2 capsules twice a day for the first 2 months. And then after that, I lower the dose to 1 twice a day. The Power Shake, the very fact that you're starting your day with live nutrition, full of enzymes, full of minerals, full of chlorophyll, and you're getting such a large amount of it because the scoops of it are so much more than you'd get on a plate of vegetables. So if you're starting your day with that, and you're starting your day with clean protein, and then you're having the cherry in the evening for a high level of antioxidants and for melatonin, it really is a wonderful balanced program. And you know, one of the things I also think is so important, like one of the things I do in my work, I have something I call Extreme Health in 30 Days. My website is healthisinsidejob.com. And, you know, I offer individual services of consultations. I offer individuals services of colon hydrotherapy, although right now most offices are closed, so I'm not doing that, which is another reason I'm motivated to make Purium my main platform for sharing and teaching. I think I've just lost my train of thought. What was I saying, Michael?
Well, you had just spoken about the power shake and all the ingredients in the power shake, then went into, you know, what your practice and your website. And then, but
I know. Okay, thank you. Okay, so besides offering individual sessions or colon hydrotherapy or nutritional consultations in a series, I do this program called Extreme Health in 90 Days. And so the first 30 days at this point, I'm pairing that up with the ultimate lifestyle transformation. And then the next 30, and what I'm doing during these 90 days is, and I also do this individually, I take people on a guided tour through the health food store and I teach them how to shop. I do another session where I'm helping them set up a healthy kitchen. So it's important to not have people feel deprived or overwhelmed. So I like, just like there's a beautiful Aesop fable. Michael, you might remember this. Aesop's fables, and there was one of the wind and the sun had a contest who could get the man to take his overcoat off first. So the wind says, I'll be able to do that. And the wind blows and blows, and the more it blows on this man, the more he holds his coat against him. And then the sun comes out, and the sun's just shining, and the man gets warm and takes his coat off. So for me, because food is such an emotional thing, I grew up being a compulsive overeater, and I know the connection between food and emotions. So I think it's really important to lead with, look what we can include in your day rather than you have to stop eating this and this and this. I think it's a very important distinction. So people who are resistant, who aren't ready to do the transformation, I'll say, okay, then let's just focus on adding some things. Let's not focus on waging war with certain foods or trying to fight your using them. Just add these, because you're not going to be needing mental willpower. When you're changing the chemistry of your blood, cravings disappear. And if you are using food as a drug, yes, on a certain level, you're going to have to do some mental and emotional work. But there's definitely the biochemistry which comes into play. And when it's out of balance, there's more craving. And when it's more balanced, a lot of that craving goes, and things that you haven't liked before, suddenly they're tasting good. The other thing about the biomedic that's so important is, as we're getting waste out of the body, and that's what colon hydrotherapy does also. It's water going into the colon, and the whole idea is over 45 minutes to loosen and dissolve the waste. So you're on a table, and there's a machine on the wall. No, there's a few different kinds of equipment, but mine had a machine on the wall, and it has two different places where two disposable tubes connect. One tube is bringing clean filtered water into the person, and then the water with the waste is coming out of the person, going through a different tube and going down the drain. And both those tubes connect to a speculum, which is inserted into the anal canal. So there's so many ways to detoxify the body. So one way is the colon hydrotherapy, where we're using water to loosen and dissolve the waste. With the biomedic, we're using the good bacteria to replenish. We're using minerals to give the cells the energy so they can move. And if we're getting rid of waste, then when the cells are doing their peristaltic action, they're able to move, they have energy. So it's just a beautiful combination. It's a beautiful package. And I'd say for any of you who haven't done the David Sandoval Academy, the kind of information he shares is exactly the kind of information that I just loved when I sat at Bernard Jensen's feet and Anna Wigmore's feet, and I learned this. So if you have the extra finances to take that course, I highly recommend it.
So Joyce, on the now, if I were going to do the biomedic and I was gluten intolerant, how would you handle that when they say there's a little bit of gluten or a touch of gluten in the biomedic?
If somebody, well, I would, a lot of times when people are gluten intolerant, it's so rare that they actually are. I mean, there's so many other factors. Somebody can try one capsule. I mean, if somebody's deathly afraid of trying it and they've had severe reactions, you know, it can be tricky to try to talk somebody into something. Now we've got the super cleanser in there. The super cleanser in the, whether we're getting it a la carte on its own or whether we're getting it as part of the 10-day transformation or part of the 30-day transformation, that pulls old waste and parasites off the walls. So if somebody is just really terrified of, you know, the gluten intolerance issue, I would say to them that when you get a package of brown rice pasta and it says gluten-free, there's still a tiny trace of gluten in there, but it's not even on the package. And there's less than that in the biomedic. So, you know, at a certain point, it's up to the person to maybe decide to try one capsule first and do it slowly, or else just use the other products, use our, you know, use our probiotic, and just do their best without using the biomedic, you know.
Got it. What about so when you combine? So when you combine the, how do you feel about the aminos? How do you like the aminos?
Like I said, I think I always tell people that, you know, we've got some really clean sources of protein, and one of them is the super aminos. One of them are the Love Super Meal and the MVP. So we have a nice variety, but I'm very impressed with the super aminos. I mean, the fact that somebody on kidney dialysis can use it is quite astonishing. You know, for that to be in the physician's desk reference, and we have the rights and the ability to share that with people, that's very special. Because, you know, we live in a culture of factory farming. And I remember John Robbins is the son of the Baskin Robbins, the man who started the whole ice cream empire. And I read that book back in 1987. And he's the one who revealed how terribly animals are treated that are raised for food in this country. And so much of the animal food we eat, well, not only, I mean, even if we're having grass-fed animal food, even if we're having antibiotic hormone-free, that's better, and at least the animals lived, hopefully, a more natural life till it's slaughtered. But on a chemistry level, the blood needs to be, okay, if you look at a scale from 0 to 14, 0 to 14, 0 is very acidic, 14 is very alkaline, 7 is right in the middle. We're talking chemistry here. The blood is between 7.35 and 7.45 alkaline. Meat is very acid forming. So the plant-based proteins, the grains and the beans are much more, they're still acid forming, but not as extreme as the animal foods. And the animal foods have no fiber. So the fact that we can offer really clean sources of protein when you are digesting animal food, there's a byproduct that's ammonia. And some animal proteins create high uric acid levels. And those are both toxic to the body and toxic to the cells. So in any healing program, anybody who's got any pain, any inflammation, any diseases, any symptoms, one of the things you do is you get them off animal food, you get them off white flour, white sugar, refined oils. The only kind of oils we should ever be using are cold pressed, expeller pressed, unrefined. If it's olive oil, it should say extra virgin. So we've got the best tropic oil, the best coconut oil that I've come across. They don't even use heat to get it in the bottle. In any of the co-ops and stores that we go to, where it says raw coconut oil, they've still had to use some heat to get that coconut oil in the jar. So that kind of attention, that kind of fastidiousness to everything Dave and Amy do, I'm really impressed with that. And I think that's something all of us can be so proud of in terms of the kind of integrity levels that are happening here. But the super aminos, you know, our gut is 70% responsible for creating serotonin, which is the feel-good chemical in the brain. So when we're working on gut health and repairing the gut, and we're also feeding the brain the right kinds of amino acids, that's a perfect combination. A long-winded answer to your question, Michael.
No, that's a great answer. And you know what? We're going to have you back for another part 2 and 3, I think. Because I love how you share your information, Joyce.
Thank you.
So what I'd like to do, we really have 5 minutes left on this call.
Okay.
I think you've given some real nuggets of why, of your talent and your skills, as well as why Purium is such an amazing superfood. So I'll open it up if anybody wants to ask you a question. And if you have a question pertaining to Purium superfoods, anyone on the line, you can unmute and feel free to ask Joyce a question. We have 5 minutes left.
Well, it's looking like somebody in the chat was asking about colon therapy without having, okay. Colon hydrotherapy is the treatment of a person being on the table and having water flow through them very gently over 45 minutes. A colostomy is where somebody has had surgery where they've had a part or all of their colon removed, and they now have to live their lives with a bag on the outside of their body collecting waste. And that's a terrible fate for anybody to have to deal with. And that's my passion, helping people not get to that point. And then I'm seeing something, and then a colonoscopy, that's a test, a diagnostic test, where people normally drink this horrible tasting stuff that makes them eliminate a lot. And then the next day there's this device, I've never had one, and I probably never will. I don't think I ever will. And I know they have a camera that they kind of put up, or however they insert it into you, and it kind of looks to see if you have polyps or the internal health of the colon. So I'm picking that up from a question, so I hope that clarified a little bit. But if anybody wants to unmute and ask me anything, please do.
We don't get people on this call with the kind of knowledge Joyce has, every day, y'all. So if you got a question, throw it out there.
I got a question. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Hi, Julie.
Hey, Joyce. Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge. I agree 1000% with what you're saying, because I also do nutrition. But I'm just wondering, like, with your patients, how do you find them receptive, just in terms of, like, a lot of people are not aware of how acidic animal foods are and the health risks. So how do you find shifting them onto the Purium foods and getting them to adhere to the protocol?
Well, again, it's really important to not focus on, if people feel like it's all or nothing, it's important to say, for a period of time, a short period of time, there's a difference between a therapeutic program and a daily health program. So I always use the pendulum as an example. You know, if you're starting out way over here and there are symptoms and conditions you're dealing with, well then for maybe a short period of time, you're going to need to be over here. And then if we're using food as medicine over here, we're slowly bringing you back to balance in the middle. And as you're coming to balance, you're able to have a bigger variety. So I think if you don't come at them with this feeling of, I'm going to have to be off animal protein forever the rest of my life, that's too scary for some people. So I would say for a short time, let's focus on, you know, every time you feel deprived about what you're not eating, focus on how good you're feeling and how long you've been deprived of good health. You know, can you for a short time say, well, I'm eliminating these foods for now because what that's going to give me is a greater level of health. And then I'll see how I feel when I regain some of my health. And perhaps it's not going to be forever that I'm going to have to be off certain foods. Let's focus on being plant-based rather than everybody vegan all the time forever. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
It makes sense. I think my question really has to do with the fact that because the aminos are so well utilized by the body, and we're approaching this in terms of optimizing nutrition with the superfoods, I just feel like why wouldn't one focus on the nutrient density piece? But I do also know that people have their habits and you kind of have to coach them through it.
Well, it also depends on when you're talking, I mean, if you have a patient doing the core 4, that's different. Normally, when I do the ultimate lifestyle with people, I usually recommend the accelerated version rather than the simple version or the intermittent fasting. Because when I was introduced to health back in the 70s and 80s, what I always used was juice fasting with people. And it was really powerful. So for me, what do we call it? The immersion, the 10-day immersion, that is similar to, you know, I use that now instead of the juice fast. But when you lighten or eliminate the need to digest, your body has all this energy to eat up, dissolve, and eliminate whatever is toxic and to heal and repair. And so the plant-based foods and the aminos are so much lighter. The body doesn't have to work hard to digest. So that's what I would share with my clients. Let's put foods in your body that require little or no digestion. This way, your own body has energy to heal, repair, and eliminate what's toxic, and can run with the nutrients you're flooding it. And then, you know, let's see how you feel after these 10 days. We're going to start reintroducing meals. And, you know, just for this short time, you're choosing foods that are a little more focused on cleansing and healing. And then when we get you off the 30 days, you'll be able to have a little more variety. And you have to remember, people's taste buds are going to change. Their blood chemistry is going to change. So when they're asking you a question now and resisting you now, that's not going to be the same person 20 days from now.
And on that note, Joyce, I think that's a perfect place for us to end this call. I want to thank you for all your compassionate teaching here today. I love your heart and how you share and your compassion for people. And we've had many conversations, and I know how hard you work at getting the word out of and helping people heal and get healthier. And so thank you, Joyce, for your time today. And we'll do another one in a few weeks. So we'll bring Joyce back for a part 2 here in the next 3 weeks, y'all. So let's give her a big round of applause. Everybody, yay, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce. Okay, Lucy.
And you know, Michael, actually, if I would be coming back again, perhaps we can take questions from people or topics they'd want me to address between now and then, so I can gear it more to what people are asking for.
Well, I'll just say this to you. Whatever you tell them, they need to know. Okay, so don't worry about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got it covered, Joyce, so don't even worry about all that. Whatever you say is a gem they need to listen to. Okay, so
Okay.
Lucy, are you here, honey?
I am here. I'm like, wow, yeah, we definitely, Joyce needs to come back again. And I like the idea, Michael, I know everybody needs to hear what Joyce has to say, but maybe we announce it and then everybody can have their questions. So that way we go specifically to the subject. I like that idea.
Good. So next week you're going to have Julie on?
Oh yeah, Julie, the new diamond is going to be on. Yes.
Good. So we got a new diamond from Canada on the call next week, everybody, at 10 a.m. She's into nutrition, health nutrition, and been an advocate for many years. So on that note, Lucy has another call, a Spanish call that starts at 11 o'clock. So any of your Spanish friends that would like to hear some great information about Purium, what do you cover on that call, Lucy?
Well, the first 30 minutes is going to be products, and the next 30 minutes, the last 30 minutes is going to be business.
Okay, so on that note, I think we've ended this. So remember, we're not a company. We don't make claims. That's not what we do. Thanks for tuning in. Please join us next week to learn more about our amazing superfoods and how they feed the body. And let's close off the call with another big round of applause for Joyce and all she brought today. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay! Thank you,
Thank you,
Thank
Joyce.
you
Joyce.
very much.
We appreciate
Thank
you.
you, Joyce.
You're welcome.
So
Thanks
good.
so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Have a great day,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Lucy.
Bye.
Thanks, Michael.